All right, so I'm here with Steven. In just 24 hours, he launched a brand new Etsy shop. He's done over $5,100 in sales in your first 30 days. Steven, man, before we hop into this, introduce yourself for no one who's seen any of our previous videos. Let everybody know who you are.
Yeah, thanks Rich for having me on your channel. Happy to be here. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Steven Chin. I am the founder of Hello Custom, which is essentially a personalization automation tool for people who sell print on demand. If you sell personalized products on Etsy, on Amazon, or Shopify, Hello Custom will automate that personalization and fulfillment for you. But before launching Hello Custom, I was actually an Etsy seller for 3 years, where in those 3 years, I was able to grow my Etsy business from zero to over $3 million revenue, where we sold over 224,000 personalized products. So we built Hello Custom as a tool for Etsy sellers, built by Etsy sellers who really know the pain point of manual personalization, where what I do now is I also teach everything that I learned in growing that business on our YouTube channel, Hello Custom.
Man, that's awesome, man. And I know in the past you built a shop that's done over $3 million in sales. Now you're doing it completely from the beginning to show beginners that they can also do this. Like, walk me through. I don't even know what questions to ask because you did this in 24 hours, a shop, right? Walk me through here. In 24 hours, you launch a brand new Etsy shop. Just walk me through this first 24 hours. How did this go?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of challenges. That's actually how we started our YouTube channel. So if you go to our YouTube channel, you scroll to the very first 6 videos. It was the print on demand $1 million challenge, where the goal of that challenge was we were going to grow an Etsy business from scratch over the next 12 months, try to grow it to $1 million revenue, document the whole thing, and then donate 100% of the profits to a charity. We were able to get that one to 6 episodes where I had to discontinue the challenge just due to lack of time. I mean, at the time I had a full Etsy business. We had a full warehouse of employees where I was the boss. I was growing and launching Hello Customs. We were building a software. We were launching a software. I was trying to do YouTube, so content creation. We were building that challenge out, the Etsy business, and I have wife and kids at home. So I had to take a few things off the plate, just due to so much time in the day, to where one of those was a challenge. But now that it's been a year since we started that challenge, it's always been like a what if. Like, what if I saw that all the way through? Like, could I have gotten to $1 million? Or do those strategies still work in 2025? Like, we do have a few people who watched those videos, continued out the challenge themselves, and got to $1 million in 12 months. So it worked, but does it still work in 2025? So that's always been something kind of like lingering in the back of my mind. So I wanted to do another challenge, but maybe at a smaller scale. So that's why we did a 24-hour challenge. Like, can I build an entire Etsy business from scratch? We launched the business, we find the product, we find the niches, we create the designs, we integrate with a print provider, we integrate with Hello Custom for fulfillment and personalization, like everything in 24 hours, set it live, document sales over the next 30 days, and see if we can get to a 6-figure run rate. So not to kind of spoil the results, but we got to a 6-figure run rate within the 30 days of a business that we built from scratch in 24 hours.
Man, that's crazy. All right, so in the 30 days, you made, how much did you make?
Yeah, so total revenue, we made $5,109. If I were to kind of paint the picture of that, so we launched the business on April 10th. And for the first 5 days, we got 0 sales. So it was like day 1, 0, day 2, 0, day 3, 0, day 4, 0. Day 5, I'm like starting to worry a little bit, like, man, this is gonna be a really boring video if we get 0 sales for the first 30 days, but I wasn't really worried because there was no red flags. I did everything, I did everything in the process of, like, we found a great product, we launched great designs, we did everything correct. And I know that part of that process is it just takes time. Like, it takes time for Etsy to index your listing, start to show your listing for rank on ads. It just takes time. My biggest fear was, is it just gonna take too much time that we're gonna miss the holiday that we launched the designs for? So, but on day 6, we finally got our first sale, $19.99, cha-ching. So I was like super excited. We were able to document that first sale. And then it just kind of took off from there to where we were able to get to our 6-figure run rate by day 12. So from day 0 to day 12, just a few days after launching the store, we got to a $307 day, and it just kept growing all the way to day 25. We peaked at a $671 day. So it went from 0 to $671 per day within 25 days of launching the store.
All right, that's crazy. Before I ask my next question, so just to clarify, 1 month's revenue, $5,100, but you were only able to touch it in the first 24 hours. You didn't launch anything else in day 2. You didn't touch anything day 3 and so forth.
That was the hardest part of the whole challenge was, doing everything in 24 hours is one thing, but like after 24 hours to not be able to make it better or launch more products products is there were typos on 6 of the listings. I was like, I just have to leave the typos because it's past the 24-hour mark. So that was the hardest part, is not being able to touch it. So one part of that too is I do daily flash sales. So I have a sale that starts that day and ends that day for every single day. I even scheduled out the daily flash sales in that 24 hours. That way it just start and ran for the full 30 days. All I did post launch was customer service. So when questions came in, I answered customer service. I fulfilled the orders. So like when the order came into Hello Custom, I approved it. So maybe just a few minutes a day of just like customer service and fulfilling orders, but I didn't touch the business. Like it was all done within that 24 hours. But I know for a fact that if I was able to put more time into it, I could have probably done 10x that. I actually know somebody who actually launched that same product for the same holidays, and she actually did $100,000 in that same 30 days, where I only did $5,000. So it was a great product at a great time with the great designs, I think.
That's crazy. All right, so hop into the next question then, because I heard you say holiday and you didn't want to pass this holiday. So what products did you choose? Was it in a certain niche? I was going to ask if it was evergreen, but apparently you said holiday. Like break that down to me.
Yeah, so the very first thing that I do is product research, right? So I have to determine what product it's going to be, to then determine what designs to put onto that product, to then create the listing images for that product specific. So in the challenge, I'm doing my product research, where typically the first product where a lot of people start with is apparel. So I started with apparel, where my process is I want to find 5 to 10 people who launched in the last 1 to 3 years. So they're new, just like me, that is selling that product type. So apparel with the designs that I'm looking to sell in, like in this case, it could be any niche specifically, that is doing the number that I'm looking to do, which would be $100,000 in the last year. I was able to find 10 people, which tells me, can you have a 6-figure Etsy business selling apparel today? The answer was yes. But the one thing that I saw is every single one of them had over 1,000 listings. It was like 1,000, 1,200, 900, 800, 1,500 listings. So what that tells me is you can have an Etsy business selling apparel that does 6 figures, but you might have to have 1,000 listings to hit that number. I can't do 1,000 listings in 24 hours, so I had to find another product. So I continued doing product research for probably like the first 2 hours of the 24 hours was just trying to find the product. And I came across the 40-ounce tumbler. So the product was the 40-ounce, Stanley style tumbler with the handle, where I found one Etsy seller that had just one listing, and it was a Mother's Day design on that one listing for that one product type, and it had thousands of reviews. And when I look at the listing age, it was only 11 months old, which means that product sold thousands of times in its first year. At the price point, it projected over $100,000. So that one product with that one design for that one seller, it made $100,000. So I was like, that's more of what I'm looking for. Like where one product can do 100,000 versus 1,000 can do 100,000. So I moved forward with the 40-ounce tumbler as the product. And then at the time of recording the challenge, I typically look, 8 to 12 weeks into the future to see kind of what's selling then. But being that we're only going to document sales for the next 30 days, I was kind of looking a little bit closer, which was right around the Mother's Day rush. So 4 weeks, into the future was Mother's Day, which right around that same time too, there's also Teacher Appreciation as well as Nurse Appreciation Week, which is like the perfect trio of like an early Christmas. So I decided to move forward with those as the 3 niches. So it's gonna be the 40-ounce tumbler, where I'm gonna launch designs for Teacher Appreciation Week, Nurse Appreciation Week, and Mother's Day, where I was able to, I launched 12 for the nurse, 6 for the teacher, and 21 for the Mother's Day. So we went live with 39 products when we launched the store the very next day.
Nice. Okay, so you listed 39 products in 24 hours. So was this like a full 24 hours? Like you stayed up from 12 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock the next day? Or was there it was like a 12-hour day? What was that whole day like?
Dude, I can't wait for you guys to watch the video, because it was 24 hours start to finish. It's one thing to work for 24 hours. I did try to take like a 3-hour nap in the middle, but I was so wired I couldn't. But it's one thing to work for 24 hours. It's another thing to have a light in your face and 6 cameras pointing at you for 24 hours. I was so fried. But I started at 12:45 in the afternoon on the first day. I worked for 12 hours straight. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm talking to the camera, and I hit my wall for the I just got done doing my 39 designs, bags under my eyes. I'm like, guys, I got to go home and just get a couple hours of sleep. And so I close the laptop, go home, try to get a couple hours of sleep, come back the very next day. My alarm goes off at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm back in the office by 5 o'clock. We grind for another 7 hours until 12:45 the next day. And yeah, so it was from start to finish. It wasn't like 24 hours spread over a few weeks. It was like we started on 12:45 this day, and the whole time I'm showing my phone too is it's currently this time at this day, exactly, from start to finish, because I wanted it to be as real as possible. I went into this not knowing the product, not knowing the niches, not knowing if it was going to be successful. I wanted to just document as real as possible. The fact that we went from 0 sales on day 1 to 0 sales on day 5, that's real. you know? So it's like, it was a very real experience from a real seller. So I'm really happy with the results on how it all turned out, but it was 24 hours start to finish, documented from start to finish as real as possible.
Man, that's amazing. I can't wait to see it, man. All right, so 39 products. I wanted to ask, like, how are you able to create 39 products, not only like so quickly, but like so confidently? I know you've done it in the past, but like, how was someone who's new create, you know, I know they wouldn't be able to do 39, but like, how would they create new listings so confidently, like these listings are gonna work?
Yeah, so the only way that I would be able to do that in that short amount of time is, again, it was 24 hours where 2 hours was finding the product, another couple hours was us creating the listing images. Like I did everything within 24 hours, but I was still able to create 39 designs, link those 39 designs to the print provider, you know, link those 39 secret templates inside Holocaust. There was a lot to do where I only spent, I think, a couple hours working on those designs. So what I ended up using was our design super bundle, which part of that design super bundle, it includes 1,000 Canva design templates that were market researched specifically for Etsy. So I'm confident in the design itself because it was market research for Etsy specifically, designed by a graphic designer. So the quality is there as well. So where all I have to do is take that template, make it unique, and apply it to my product. So all I did was I went into my 1,000 templates. I cherry picked out 12 for nurses, or cherry picked out 12 for teacher, cherry picked out 6 for nurses, and then 21 for Mother's Day. Made them unique over a couple hours, slapped them onto the product, which also shows that like I only took 39 out of the 1,000, put it onto a trendy product, and I made a peak $671 a day just weeks after setting it live. Like just imagine if you had all 1,000 across all the different product types. It shows that those templates do work, again, because they were market research for Etsy. They're designed by graphic designers and they work today. And I was able to prove that in the challenge. I don't think I would have been able to do more than just a handful if I started with a blank canvas from scratch, having to go create my master list and my design attributes and create them from scratch. I would not have been able to do it all within 24 hours.
Yeah, so that's awesome then, because you got 1,000 templates that anyone can use. But the thing is, if you were really to divide it, you truly could have 10x. Instead of just like being burnt out in that 24 hours, you could have just did like a real 8-hour work day for the rest of the weeks, and you could have got a whole bunch of listings up. That would have been crazy.
That's the idea. Is I think someone could probably within an 8-hour window do 100 designs. So it's like someone could go load their store with 1,000 personalized products that are, again, they're good designs by the end of the month. They're kind of meant for people who are not graphic designers, or they might have a full-time job or family commitments to where they just don't have time to sit in front of a Canvas screen for hours. It's just like you can spend just minutes. You can launch products in minutes. And also one thing we did do with that design super bundle for the launch of this challenge is we discounted the price. So it used to be, I think 30% more. We lowered it 30% for a limited time in going live for this challenge. So if you want to take advantage of having the design super bundle, plus it includes 6 free bonuses, other aspects I used in that 24 hours to make it as successful as it was, you can now get that for a discounted price.
Awesome. We'll post that link somewhere, or I'll forward you to Steven. Towards the end of the video, I'll let you know more about that. But I do have a question. Did you run any Etsy ads for these listings or anything?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm a big believer in Etsy ads. So the one thing with Etsy ads are PPC, pay per click. So you only pay when somebody clicks onto your product, and we want people to click onto our product. Like if we're confident that we found the right product, if we're confident that we got the right designs, we have the right SEO and the right, listing images, like we want as many clicks as possible. That way we have as many chances as possible to turn that click into a paying customer. So that was the one thing that I turned on from day one all the way through the end of the challenge was Etsy ads. And the reason why I am a big believer in Etsy ads is I use Etsy ads to help drive rank for my listings. So I'm going to try to paint this picture as clearly as possible. So the rule of thumb is that 80% of sales are acquired on page 1, right? So if this is page 1, this is page 2, this is page 3. So this is page 1. So Mother's Day sales will like 10x for the Mother's Day rush, but that huge wave of demand will happen on 80% of it will happen on page 1. So everyone who's on page 2, they're like, where was Mother's Day? I missed it. I didn't see any increase in my sales for Mother's Day. It's because that huge wave of sales were acquired on page 1 for the search terms that they use to buy that product. So when I launch a product, or when you launch a brand new product on Etsy, you're not automatically going to go to page 1. You'll probably be on page 15 or below. So how do we get our products to go to page 1? Either organically or with Etsy ads, pay to play. You can pay to promote your listing to page 1. So what happens is my organic is on page 15, but I'm paying to display my my Etsy ad listing on page 1. So this one starts to get sales. And as this one starts to get sales, it's driving organic rank for my organic to where eventually this one will be on page 1 as well. So I use Etsy ads as a means to drive rank, not necessarily for profitability. When I first launched the products, 100% of my sales were coming from ads. So I was paying, that the advertising cost for every single order, but just 4 weeks post launch, like when I ended the challenge, it was 60% of my sales were coming from ads and 40% organic. And it'll eventually normalize where only 20% will come from ads and 80% will come from organic. Like when I had my Etsy business, when we had, hundreds of products, hundreds of thousands of sales, it normalized about 80% organic, 20% through ads. And that's kind of where the profitability comes in. So yes, turning on ads day 1, pay to play. That way I can capture that Mother's Day rush, drive organic rank. And then by month 2, I probably would have been way more profitable because I would have had more organic rank at that time.
Did you change the Etsy ads budget throughout the 30 days?
Yeah, so I ended up keeping it at so I had max budget the whole time. So it's just it'll be more profitable organically. So essentially it'll be where 60% was coming when I ended the challenge from ads, 40% was organic. Where if I were to do that same amount of, let's say, revenue the next month, where only 20% was coming from ads, I would have paid 3 times less because 3 times less would have come from ads because 3 times more would have came from organic. But the way that I always do it is I'm so confident in the product that I launch. I'm so confident in the designs I launch because I spent so much time before launching the product that I just leave it on indefinitely. And then again, it's PPC. So like if I was launching a Mother's Day product, there'll be more demand during the Mother's Day rush. So there'll be more clicks during Mother's Day. So I will spend more during Mother's Day. But a month from now, where it's probably sales will slow down, the demand will slow down. So therefore the clicks will slow down. Therefore the Etsy ads you spend will slow down. So it kind of ebbs and flows with the demand. So I just always keep it at its max. That way, as it ebbs and flows, I'm not going to be, that's not going to be the bottleneck for the Etsy business.
Right. So, Steven, if you were able to do this challenge completely over, what would you do differently?
Yeah, so all in all, I'm actually really happy with how the challenge played out. The fact that we built the entire business in 24 hours, set it live, and we got to a peak day revenue of $671, like I'm pretty happy with those results. If I were to change one thing, I would have probably done the challenge 4 to maybe 8 weeks sooner and then run it all the way through Mother's Day. That way, essentially, it would have given me more time to drive rank for the organic sales. So the reason why that's so important is sales velocity is the #1 variable to drive rank. So trying to rank a product when the sales are lower, it's easier to drive rank. So essentially, when I launched a challenge where Mother's Day was only 4 weeks away. So the sales were already ramping up, meaning that for me to get to page 1, I already had to do this many sales to get to page 1 versus 4 weeks sooner, I would have only had to do like this many sales to get to page 1. So just doing the exact same thing 4 weeks sooner, I could have gotten to page 1 maybe 2 times faster. So by that same time when I was just launching, I could have already been on page 1 and I probably could have gotten 10 times more of the results just launching 4 weeks sooner. So that's why it's so important when everyone says launch 8 to 12 weeks before the holiday and event, is that way it gives you enough time to create the designs, show Etsy what the product is, to get indexed and actually get rank. That way when sales explode, you're already on page 1 when that wave happens. But for me, you'll see it in the challenge, when I was looking 8 to 12 weeks into the future, it was Father's Day's time. And for the 40-ounce product, I determined that catching the tail end of Mother's Day might be bigger than the whole Father's Day for that product specifically. So that would have been the one thing I would have changed is just when I actually did the challenge at a sooner time.
That makes sense. All right, so I got some rapid fire questions for you. You don't have to explain yourself, but we'll just go down the list and you can just answer as quickly as you can if that's cool.
Yeah, of course.
All right, so Canva or Photoshop?
Canva. I've actually never used Photoshop.
That's crazy. All right, niche or trend?
Niche.
Favorite product to sell right now?
I would say the 40-ounce tumbler. It blew my mind.
AI tools, yes or no?
No.
No.
Other than Hello Custom, because it automates personalization.
Best time of day to upload listings?
I honestly would just launch whenever I created it. I never had a specific time of day.
Okay. What's your go-to I need motivation song or podcast?
That's a good question. I actually just put on Pandora and I just get in my headspace. Yeah, I don't have like a specific motivational song or spokesperson.
How many listings is enough to launch?
1. Yeah, so you create your Etsy business, you create that first product and you set it live and you just continue to do that, where consistency will get you to the number of consistent sales. So when you have your very first one, launch it. I would say that yes, that for Etsy, yes, that for Amazon, maybe different for Shopify. I would feel maybe sending someone to a Shopify website with just one product might be different. But if we're talking about Etsy and Amazon, first product goes live, set it live, turn on Etsy ads, and then just be consistent from there.
Gotcha. And then what's one Etsy myth that you want to bust?
Ooh. I would say that's hard to like bust, right? So everyone teaches how they found success, right? So it's like the way what I teach might be a little bit different than what you teach, might be a little bit different than what somebody else's teaches, but we all found success with different paths. So whenever people say like you need to niche down, like you need to be within one niche, that way you have your customer who comes back to your shop. That's the one thing where I'm like, yes, people do that. They do find success in that. Maybe it makes more sense when you have a brand and you are off of Etsy, but when somebody comes to Etsy, Etsy's the brand. When someone says, oh, that's a cute shirt, where'd you get that? They say Etsy. They don't say, oh, the Bass Fishing Pro shop on Etsy. So like me, I'm a big believer in having a broad, store with, multiple product types and multiple niche types. So that's the one thing that I get asked probably the most commonly, niche down or broad store. How I found success was with the broad store, but doesn't mean that the niching down is a myth that needs to be busted.
Right. Okay, what's your number one Etsy tip?
Etsy number one tip is, I would say, take action. I think that the hardest thing, what I love so much about this challenge is that I was able to do everything in 24 hours, right? So like no excuses. Everyone has a weekend off work. So I think the hardest step in business in general is that first step, just taking action, going from watching YouTube videos to actually taking action. Like that is the biggest step. So my number one tip is to just take action and just learn by doing. And the only way you're going to fail is when you give up. Like you can't say, I started Etsy or I started print on demand today